a real-life water tribe that still exists today with members who have adapted to survive completely submerged for hours at a time, and historic myths of sea-dwelling monsters and gods. I hope you're holding your breath because it's time to dive in. The Bajau tribe, who are still around today, pretty much never leave the sea, and they have evolved to become some of the world's best freedivers. While they don't actually live underwater, they do spend on average about 6 hours a day, or 60% of their time underwater. The members of this tribe have evolved to dive to depths of over 70 meters, that's 229.5 feet, and they are able to hold their breath for up to 13 minutes at a time. These incredible adaptations come from generations of the tribe's ancestors living on and in the water. Over time, the spleens of the Bajau people have become much larger than the average human, which allows them to take in much more oxygen when their spleens contract. The diet of the Bajau, also known as sea nomads, consists of mainly fish, which is to be expected, but a recent decline of fish in the areas where they reside, the coastal regions of Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Thailand, has unfortunately made it much more difficult for them to sustain themselves. Sea nomads typically live in one family unit consisting of 5 members, and they reside on small houseboats. These houseboats then travel together with the boats of other families, all of which come together for fishing and the organization of religious ceremonies. The Bajau learn to swim before they ever begin to walk, which is why they are so incredibly capable when it comes to maneuvering in the water. Along with the Bajau tribe, there are a few other sea tribes around. These include the Moken of southern Thailand, as well as the Orange Laut, which literally translates to the sea people. When asked how they would describe themselves, these seafaring communities often say they are born, they live, and they die on their boats, and the umbilical cords of their children are plunged into the sea. There are, however, a few exceptions to this rule, one being monsoon season, during which the Bajau people and the people of a few other Indonesian sea tribes gather on land to protect themselves from the harsh weather. It is believed that there are around 1.3 million Bajau people scattered across Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and the Philippines, and the Sultanate of Brunei, with 345,000 residing in Indonesia alone. The Bajau are considered to be the main modern-day seafaring tribe, as their numbers far exceed the numbers of other tribes like the Orange Laut, who have a population of about 420,000 worldwide and just 17,500 in Indonesia. As for the Moken people, there are only about 2,000 to 3,000 total, and they generally live off the coasts of southern Thailand and Myanmar. Although the tribes live a pretty different lifestyle than our own, they do still communicate with members outside of their own communities. In fact, the members of the Bajau and Orange Laut tribes are quite friendly, which is why sometimes people will hire them to help with fishing expeditions, since they are the experts. As I mentioned, these seafaring tribes have adapted over many generations so that they are able to better survive in the ocean. But it's not just the spleens of the Bajau that have developed to be 50% larger than their land-based neighbors, but also the eyes of specifically the Moken children, which can see twice as well underwater than the average European eye. Why? Well, because not only have their eyes adapted to allow for lesser reddening, lesser irritation, and a less intense reaction to salt water, but they have also learned to contract their eyes incredibly well underwater, which allows them to get a much clearer look at the things around them, like small shells and other easily grabbable food. The ability to maximally constrict one's eyes underwater can be learned by others, but the skill goes away if it's not used regularly, kind of like muscle mass. Furthermore, it is much more difficult for adults to achieve this ability because of the fact that after puberty, the eye somewhat hardens, making the kind of extreme contractions required for the Moken underwater supervision much more difficult. Another adaptation possessed by none other than the Bajau is their skin's ability to sustain prolonged exposure to salt water. A group of specialists who visited the tribe described a white, scale-like layer with the appearance that kind of resembles ichthyosis, which is a dermatological issue. However, it's no issue for the Bajau. In fact, it's an asset. And it doesn't last forever either. A few months of washing with fresh water and avoiding the ocean put their skin pretty much back to its original state. Another thing the Bajau peoples do to adapt to life in the sea, and more specifically their free diving activities, is pierce their eardrums. You heard me. They pierce their eardrums at an early age so that they do not have to worry about equalizing when diving down to such extreme depths. This practice does have a downside though. I mean, they're literally piercing their eardrums, so it's no surprise that it causes many of the Bajau peoples to become hard of hearing when they get a little bit older in age, but to them it seems as though the pros really do outweigh the cons here. Alright, moving on from the tribes of the sea, let's talk about the Kappas. Unlike the sea nomads, which reside in reality, the Kappa tribe lives in Japanese folklore, but they are fascinating and pretty weird nonetheless. The Kappa, which are described as green human-like beings with webbed feet and hands, view themselves as gods, and they are said to become increasingly aggressive when not treated as such. They are known for their love of cucumbers, I'm not making this up, and their fondness of sumo wrestling. But wait, there's more. These creatures are often accused of attacking humans who swim in forbidden waters. Their go-to attack? Removing a mythical organ called the Shirikodama from their victim's hind nether region. Honestly, I don't know how they come up with this stuff. Grindylows are another mythological creature, this time belonging to British folklore and originating in Yorkshire. These creatures, like the Kappas, are depicted as humanoid with webbed hands, scaly skin, a greenish complexion, and incredibly sharp claws and teeth. Sometimes they are shown with feet, sometimes a long eel-like tail, and other times with appendages resembling octopus tentacles. These creatures are said to dwell in ponds and marshes, waiting for unsuspecting young people. When one comes along, the Grindylow grabs them and drags them down below the surface of the water. Oftentimes in Yorkshire, the tail of the Grindylows is used to keep young people and those who don't quite know how to swim away from pools, marshes, and ponds for their own safety. Whether or not these creatures are real is, I guess, up for debate, but personally, I'm not buying it. The Nereids, described in Greek mythology as the female spirits of the sea, are said to be the 50 daughters of the very busy old man in the sea, Nereus, and the also very busy Oceanid Doris. They also have a brother called Nereids, but for some reason the Nereids are much more popular, probably because there's 50 of them and only one Nereids. Anyways, the Nereids are believed to accompany Poseidon, the god of the sea, and unlike the mythological creatures known as sirens, these creatures are said to be quite friendly and even helpful towards sailors, which makes sense seeing as they are said to be a symbol of all things beautiful and kind about the sea. These creatures are generally depicted as beautiful goddesses, crowned with corals and draped in white robes, sometimes with legs, sometimes with tails, and sometimes with a combination of both. It's a real roll the dice kind of mythical creature. In Chinese culture, the worship of the 4 dragon kings is said to bring good weather and a bountiful harvest, as they are believed to be the rulers of water and weather. Each of the 4 dragon kings is responsible for governing their own corner of the Sea of China. The blue or green dragon king, Ao Guang, rules over the East China Sea. He is the essence of spring and is represented in the wood element, which symbolizes growth, health, new life, and peace. The red dragon, Ao Qin, governs the South China Sea. He is the essence of summer and is represented through fire. Since red is considered a lucky color in China, it is believed that the red dragon brings happiness, good fortune, and luck. The black dragon, Ao Shun, rules the North China Sea as well as Lake Baikal. He is the essence of winter, represented by the water element. He is believed to bring vengeance and catastrophes such as floods and storms. You do not want to mess with this guy. The 4th dragon is the white dragon, Ao Run, which governs the Lake Qinghai in the west. He is the essence of autumn and is represented by the metal element. This dragon symbolizes purity, but has also been associated with mourning and death. Now, I know I said there were only 4 dragon kings, which there are, but there are far more than 4 recognized dragons in Chinese culture. However, unlike the dragon kings believed to live in crystal castles in the oceans and lakes guarded by shrimps and crabs, these remaining dragons are believed to roam the land and skies. These are the yellow and gold dragons. The yellow dragon symbolizes royalty and is often depicted on the emperor's robes, as it is quite literally a symbol of the emperor. This dragon also represents authority, good fortune, and wisdom. And then there's the gold dragon, associated with the most powerful of deities. This dragon is a symbol of the highest forms of wealth, prosperity, strength, abundance, and power. Now, I have 2 questions for you. 1, if you could be guarded by any 6 of these dragons, which would you choose? And 2, if you could be part of any of the tribes mentioned today, real or mythical, which one would you pick? Let me know down below. I've been your host, Hannah Thompson. See you next time.